Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and this week I'm kind of in a maintenance mode. Like, I'm going to see you guys on Monday for the Q&A. However, I don't have the most revolutionary plugin for you today, but I do have a plugin because I always try to have a plugin. And when I say maintenance mode, I mean I'm continuing to pursue all that dither stuff, and I'm reissuing some of the stuff that exists in the sort of Airwindows dither space. Specifically, this is another one of those non-dithers. This is called RawGlitters, and it's part of something in StudioTan. And I'm re-releasing it with the switch between 16 and 24-bit and the DeRez control. But in checking this out and setting it up, I realized that it does have some funny things going on with it after all. So without further ado, let's go and see what it is. This is RawGlitters, and if I turn it on, it does this. And that's because rather than being a proper dither, this one is trying to accentuate, it's trying to make the brightest possible noise out of whatever choice truncating it does. So rather than dithering, rather than trying to remove truncation noise, it always tries to turn it into the brightest sparkle in the background of everything. And if I keep this playing, you'll be able to hear, firstly, that it's a bright hissy noise in the background. It does gate if it gets absolute silence, but you can hear the glitter of it. Here's the raw sounds, and then as I turn up this DeRez, we have an unusual bit crush. In fact, it's rather a harsh bit crush. And if you go to full DeRez, we're hearing nothing but just bright, shiny overtones here. And it's got a nasty, gatey cutout. If I turn on MV, we get terrible noises, because that's the reverb plan. And since it's not a proper dither, it's dragging crazy things out of the noise floor. So let's turn off the reverb again, because that reverb is going to hover around with really faint noises for a long time. That's MV, and some of it is a very long duration reverb. And go back to some of this. Again, we've got the 16 and 24-bit. So if you have DeRez at 0, this is a straight dither-ish kind of thing. It's doing the same stuff you're hearing, but right down at the noise floor. So there should be a sparkliness going on. And I would point out that the way this works is exactly the same as the previous RawGlitters, and it's exactly the same as what's in StudioTan. What's new is you get the quantizer switch, and you get that DeRez knob. And let's play with that just a little bit. I'm not going to go on forever about this because this is just another one of, it's a maintenance release of this. But if we say went to only the kick drum, we're actually finding that that's just super bright. But we do get a sort of, here, we can do a low-res bit crush, but instead of gnarly grunginess, we get just literally a high-frequency glitter over everything. Let's switch over to something else, like, I don't know, clean bass? Let's see if we can get something that truncates interestingly. Okay, with this, if we bit crush it to within an inch of its life, we're getting a sort of clangy effect out of it. And if we include the distorted bass, we're getting a really raunchy sound. Again, this is a DeRez phenomenon. So the raw sound that we're working on is this. But then if we bit crush it, which is what this is doing, instead of doing a normal bit crush, we get this effect. We get this. And since it is a bit crush, it'll gate itself a little bit, but it's dragging out any little high frequency detail that it can, because this is RawGlitters, this is what this does. And what lurks beneath the normal surface of the sound here is this really gnarly effect. And again, this is not simply an EQ effect, this is a bit crush effect, so it's got a compressy quality to it as well. What else can we add? That's not there, that's not there. Or is it? No, that's not there, but this noise is here. That's what it normally sounds like. And we'll also hear what it sounds like when that area on the screen runs out and it's feeding it nothing but silence. What do we got? So we can do this. It's still a little gnarly. I mean, it should be, oh no, there it goes. It's possible that the VST won't do that because it's like that's the tail time on the effect. It's continuing to process rather than cutting it out entirely. Just for fun, I wonder if I can throw something on this drone effect. Don't mind me. I was going to be real quick about this video, but now I'm playing, so here we go. Can I throw another, maybe another purist gain that has the capacity to just mute completely? The trouble is if it's doing the dithering to floating point, I'm probably going to still get an effect, but I guess we'll find out. We're going to learn something here. So to sort of to take us out of this, let's go to, I know I have many plugins. It was hell finding RawGlitters because I forgot that it was under R. This is why I have a starter kit with a more limited number of plugins. I got to have all of these because I'm releasing them, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to keep everything installed. It's kind of a better idea if you pick and choose. And let's see, first gain, where are we? There we are. So if I set slow fade to nothing and have this on or off, and I have this soloed, we'll have this noise. Yeah, we're still getting an effect. This is the kind of thing where you might want to build this into the track and then gate the track knowing that it's going to be dragging up all of this crazy distorty stuff. From this, which is normal, to this really gnarly stuff. And there you have it. So again, this is, I guess, what I call a maintenance release. If that sounded like fun to you, or it sounded like an interesting, raspy, gnarly, horrifying tone that you might want to throw on something harsh and electronic, or indeed on some kind of nasty rock thing, then cool. I didn't really look at it that way. I thought this was going to be a really boring release, but it became a little more interesting. I'll keep this kind of stuff going. So, yeah. Airwindows is supported by Patreon, and if you would have bought this for $50, which honestly I feel like kind of maybe that's a little bit silly. Like, if this is that revolutionary to you, then fine, but I don't expect most people would buy this if it was being sold commercially. But the great thing is you don't have to. Because I'm supported by Patreon, then I can just put this out and you can have it. And if you decide at some point that it's like, yeah, I would have bought this for $50, then you can go and tack like $50 a year onto the Patreon, and things keep growing and I keep ending up being able to do bigger and more things. But as you could see from me going into like this, I don't always need to, sometimes I just kind of do more things. And these are all free for you to download and use. And I am just there trying to expand the world of what all this is, which is going pretty well. I mean, I talk about the Patreon, but it's also open source software, and that means that people can get the source code. It's MIT licensed, which is very permissive, and as long as they credit me, Airwindows, as having written the code that they're expanding upon, they can not only use it, but they can expand upon it. And that's already happening. There is a VCV Rack project called RawGlitters, where it started out as porting my plugins over to that. And as near as I can tell, it's expanded outwards until the person doing RawGlitters is starting to do their own plugins based on the stuff that I do, which is kind of cool because it's like that. On the one hand, I could say, well, the stuff that comes out that is exactly the way that I had it is just as good as if I had done it. It is, Chris Johnson Airwindows code applied to this new platform thanks to open source. But the really cool thing about open source is that you don't have to stick to how I would do it. And it doesn't have to be only how I would do it. So in a sense, you got to learn what people are doing with this stuff. It's not just a matter of letting people port it over. It's letting people expand on stuff and build new things from what I've supplied. And in a very real sense, it's all cool to have people porting stuff and have stuff that's recognizably like as I would do it. But it's cooler to give people a leg up so that they can start doing their own things and develop their own identity and give them a start to get them going. So that's what I really care about. So yeah, me still being around in Patreon means that I've had the opportunity to do a lot of that. I like it. I get up to other stuff, like here's some little pieces of perf board. I'm gradually working on getting the hardware side of Airwindows going so that I'll be building circuits on live streams that you can watch. And I'm going to do that when I'm good and ready and everything is in place to do it properly. But that'll be exciting. And I will show all of my work. And the neat thing about doing hardware is people can do open source code and stuff. And that gives many people access to plugins and stuff. But the thing about hardware is if you can build that, you're building artistic little artifacts and go on Etsy or Reverb or something like that. If you get good enough at it, learn to do that kind of thing. And not only can you make your own instruments, but you can also make instruments and sell them and become sort of like a little synthesizer cobbler, like really small little artisan guy making stuff. And that can make just everything in the world lots more interesting and fun. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a exciting fall and winter as all this stuff starts to come online and become more of a big deal. But for now, I'm bringing you RawGlitters. Here, let me go back to my normal camera view. But for now, I'm bringing you RawGlitters, and didn't realize it was going to be quite as fun as it was, because now that is a bitcrusher that bit crushes not to a roaring noise, but to an incredibly bright, outrageous sound. And that transforms anything that it goes through real strikingly. As long as you can handle the fact that it also drags up the noise floor, hey, you got a new sound design tool. So you're welcome. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.